You may or may not have come across this type of pretty privilege that I call pretty foreign girl privilege. I haven't heard of anyone talking about this nor use this term, so I decided to take it upon myself to coin this term. So, pretty foreign girl privilege is basically the same definition as what the general definition of pretty privilege is, like getting access to certain spaces, services, or receiving above average special treatment because of your physical appearance. And in this case, there is an add-on where your cultural and or national ethnic background play a part too. So just as our unambiguous dark-skinned black features are varied, so are our cultural, national, and ethnic backgrounds. There's a level of clout that each region, country, and continent holds that you can benefit from whilst being a pretty girl, and you can use this to your advantage. That is why you should use where you come from as a flex, but not to the point where you become an ultra enraged ultra nationalist. That's not what I'm talking about. So I'll start off with an example. So when one thinks of the Caribbeans, they think of beaches, sun, tropical fruit, and just mostly beautiful people of all shades. And if you are from said place, subconsciously people will try to attach your physical appearance to that specific country or region that you tell them you're from. And one of the countries or even a region's national pride is their beautiful women. And the main reason being is because beauty is a form of social power and a lucrative business that many industries, including the tourism industry, heavily rely on when advertising the places to go for vacations. Notice how they usually use conventionally attractive people to advertise their hotel resorts, excursions, and holiday packages. They do that on purpose because beauty sells and generates revenue. Also, have you noticed that when people mention that they're from a country that is well known for their beautiful women, people tend to comment, "Oh, no wonder you're so beautiful. It's because you come from this country." Bear in mind, to some other people, like the natives of that said country, they may say, "This person is actually average looking based on our country's standards." But that's not how outsiders and non-natives view it. If anything, it means that the PR of the country has worked so well in pushing their attractive people to the forefront to the point that outsiders automatically assume someone from that said country is attractive. This gives the natives an individual sense of pride. Also, it boosts national pride and ego. Countries like South Sudan are an example of countries that are well known for having beautiful, tall women. Where now, when someone mentions South Sudan, especially amongst Gen Z, many times people think of the famous models like Eduta Ketch, Nokia. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is that when your region, your country is associated with a type of aspect of beauty, that is another way of attaining pretty privilege. Similarly, in Southern African countries like in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, and so on, they're well known not only for having beautiful natural landscapes, but also having beautiful curvaceous women. And have you also noticed that when there's an aspect that a country particularly excels in, people want to try to gain some sort of proximity to you, is if someone has some sort of admixture from your country or from your cultural background, ethnic background, even if it's like a really small percentage, they'll make it known to you that they have it. And it's like they hold a sense of pride from being connected to that country. So these are subtle ways in which you can tell you're benefiting from pretty foreign girl privilege. Also these ways provide you with the opportunity to put yourself on a pedestal by sharing and educating people about your culture and your country. And by doing this, you are simultaneously making yourself and also people who look like you more visible. Pretty foreign girl privilege is also linked in with social class. So you'll notice this play in action the most when you travel to other parts of the world. And if you come from a Western country like the US, Canada, or a Western European country that is wealthy, a lot of the reactions that you may get may be pretty positive. And that's because Western countries are typically known for being pretty wealthy, which is a level of clout in itself and an indicator of social status to a lot of people. So with this clout, for lack of better words, you'll notice slight perception changes in how people view you, which I do have to add can be a double-edged sword, because there can be negative stereotypes attached to a country. However, when it comes to attractive people, the halo effect tends to come into play in this, where people are more inclined to align an attractive person with more positive traits and positive stereotypes rather than negative. If your country isn't well known, you can use yourself as an opportunity to represent your country. So whilst looking your best, you'll be people's first introduction to your country. So whenever they come across that country again, whether it's in a book, movie, or another form, you'll be the first one to pop up in their mind, leaving a good impression. You can also gain pretty foreign girl privilege by wearing your cultural attire to formal events, or even in your everyday wear. And this will make you stand out from the crowd and inquire a lot of curiosity from people. So pick something from your cultural and ethnic background that you can incorporate into your everyday look. So it could be a style of earrings or henna design, headdresses you can wear instead of like a tiara princess or something on special occasions like your birthday. Or you can wear a particular hairstyle that your ancestors wore. Many schools and workplaces are now having cultural day events where you can go in your cultural attire for the day and making people more drawn to you and giving you that hyper visible presence, which is a big part of pretty privilege in general. If your background consists of mixed ethnicities or countries, so you are lucky because you have the choice to dress up and play in different cultures, and you also have the advantage to relate to more people from different communities too. This will help you a lot, especially as an ambiguous dark-skinned Black women, in building our United Nations network. A smaller and simpler way of foreign pretty girl privilege online is by adding flags next to your username that represent where you're from. If your name is unique and especially related to your culture, nationality, ethnicity, make sure to correct people when they mispronounce your name. Oftentimes, when your name isn't a typical English name or a typical name found in the West with European roots, people tend to shy away from correcting other people on how to properly pronounce their names because they don't want to seem difficult and they just want to assimilate into the society, which is understandable to an extent. But by doing this, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you're dimming yourself to make other people comfortable. This leads me to add that if you have an accent when speaking English or speaking a language that isn't your mother tongue, this sets you apart from everybody else. You'll notice that people will tend to pay attention to you more because it's probably their first time hearing someone who has your accent. And I know some people may be apprehensive in doing this because people can be pretty rude towards people who have different accents. So if someone is rude to you about it and makes a mean, unnecessary comment, ask them how many languages do they speak. Let's say the person who's rude is solely an English speaker and that's the only language that they can speak. Ask them why they only bother to speak one language. Because I'm sorry, you can't shame people for being different and then expect no pushback. But of course, we're going to keep it classy. Accents like the French, Spanish, and Italian accents are deemed to be beautiful and charming. And there's a reason for this. These countries have advertised themselves in such a way to portray themselves as the most beautiful countries in the world, to the point that you'd be a fool to not want to visit at least once in your lifetime. And they pride themselves in being different from other Western countries. And they make it a point to stay true to their Mediterranean roots instead of following the modern trends. And if your country doesn't have the same level of influence that these other countries have, you can still start by doing this for yourself, by actually wearing your differences, like your accent, as a badge of honor. Another popular way in which you can represent your country that I've seen being done by a lot of East Africans is by wearing a country flag in beaded bracelets. I think it was Kenyans who started the trend, and then the rest of the East African countries just followed suit. So these are some of the ways in which you can attain pretty foreign girl privilege. What are your ways of attaining this type of pretty privilege? If you haven't watched the other videos in the pretty privilege series, catch up on them and let me know about your experiences with pretty privilege. I also noticed that a lot of people could relate to the last video about the hair jealousy, specifically natural hair jealousy, and many of you shared your stories and I was just gobsmacked to read a lot of them. So if you would like me to share more of your stories in these videos with the community about hair jealousy or your pretty privilege stories or just any story related to any of the videos on my channel, you can email me at theonlycococlub@gmail.com. You will be anonymous and your identity will not be revealed, so do not worry about that. So thank you so much for watching and supporting, and I will see you in the next one.